We'll move to the next section when we'll be addressing to you questions from the students. And the first question, you mentioned that you were in Canada, you spent your childhood in Canada, and then you moved to the Netherlands.
Yep.
One student is very interested in how did you adapt to the Dutch culture, if you had to?
Well, of course, you have to adapt. Heck, if you live in Groningen and you go live in the West, there's a certain adaptation that goes on there. Of course, yes, I've had to learn the language, which I speak at maybe a little bit more than a basic level now.
How much time did it take you?
Oh, it took me probably a good 4 or 5 years.
Why would you think so?
Well,
we have a lot of international students that are not learning the Dutch.
Yeah, well, for a number of reasons. The primary reason is when I taught here, I taught exclusively in English.
Yeah. And you're being in an English environment, I would say. If you're I feel myself as being in an English environment here.
Certainly, I worked at the Department of the International Business School that operates both their education is in English and their management conducts itself in English.
Yeah.
And so within that environment, I didn't have to work too much on my Dutch. Probably not a good idea. Of course, when I go home, I have to go to the Albert Heijn, so I know aardbeien and whatever stuff like that. That's not hard. You need a vocabulary of about 50 words, and you're fine with that. And then, of course, when I would go into my house, we would generally speak English. That was the first part. Things changed with the coming of my daughter. She came to the Netherlands when she was 2 years old and has been through the Dutch educational system. Beginnen met basisschool of Peuterspeelzaal and then basisschool, and then daarna by the Brugklas, by the Martens College. And so she's gone right through the Dutch system, so obviously I've had to acquire more Dutch knowledge. And since I've been in the School for Facility Management, it's been about 1.5 years now, or 2 years, they actually put me in a situation where I'm expected to speak Dutch to the students, or at least understand the students when they speak Dutch.
So that's when you started to
I did it a little bit before that, but certainly that required me to engage. Plus, I also work in a Dutch department. We operate in Dutch here. All of the information is in Dutch, as it should be, because it is a Dutch department. So in that sense, I'm the one that has to do most of the adaptation to the environment, because I'm the only international member of staff within the Department of Facility Management.
Did you find it hard?
Well, as those of you that have studied both group dynamics and issues of culture, if you have one person that is significantly apart from the rest of the group, based on any kind of demographic line or something like that, yes, it can create issues in terms of integration. I must say, my colleagues are wonderful.
Okay.
And I'm very, very fortunate to work with a group of professionals in this organization, in the School of Facility Management, that are extremely open to different ideas, different ways of looking at things. They are supremely patient with me in, describing something or letting me know, Mark, you didn't quite understand this, perhaps it means that. I cannot imagine working with a group of professional colleagues that would be more attentive, responsive, and aware of my situation within the greater context. I truly feel blessed in that way to be working in this department. I'm really, really lucky.
Since you brought up the topic of your colleagues, we have a question from one of your colleagues, Vladimir, who is wondering if you share his opinion about the fact that Hanze and Groningen in general is not that interculturally sensitive as it was before.
I know Vlad quite well. My opinion would be slightly different than his. As a matter of fact, in the 20 or so years that I've been associated with this university, I've seen tremendous growth, both in international student enrollment. I've seen tremendous growth in international cooperation by various parts of this organization, whether it be in research, whether it be in international placements. So in my opinion, based on what I see, I think this university is doing a pretty good job when it comes to that. I think internationalization is a road that you travel that really doesn't have a destination. Things happen on this road as you go through it, and you make adaptations and you make changes to it as you get. The students we get today are different than the students 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You guys are more plugged in. You are much more aware internationally on day one when you arrive here in first year than some of the students did 20 years ago. They weren't bad students.
Yeah.
They were just different and had a different experience. And so I think it's the responsibility of the organization to kind of keep in touch with this changing dynamic of our customer, you know, every year when students come in, what's of interest to them, and to see, do we have to modify our offering? Do they give us something to think about? Do we go, maybe we need to make some changes here. Maybe we need to make some adaptations there.
Okay. Very interesting opinion, and I'm sure Vladimir would be happy to hear it on our YouTube channel. Another question, Anton, it is again related to the jokes. He's a second-year student. He's asking, who's your favorite comedian, stand-up comedian, and why? If you have one.
I'd have to go back to my teenage years. There's a comedian, God rest his soul, named George Carlin.
Okay.
He was sort of a social commentary comedian. So I very much...
Can you quote one of his jokes?
Not probably on prime time television. He was a bit of an off-colored comedian. Okay. And since I'm not exactly sure who the consumer of this video will be, parenthesis, my boss, maybe not, but his comment was about social commentary, what he saw out there and what it meant to him. There's another comedian called Black that's currently in the United States now. Richard Black, I believe his name is. Also the same type of comedian. I enjoy political comedians. I enjoy satirists to some extent, so I watch The Daily Show a little bit, these kinds of things. But to say I listen to comedians for inspiration or anything like that, no, not so much. Again, I read newspapers, and there's enough jokes in there that I don't have to do. Well, that's how most comedians write their material. Yeah. Topical. They read the newspaper, and they take a story, and they kind of flip it on its head a little bit, and they turn something serious into something humorous.
Do you feel yourself as a comedian in some way?
Yes, in the sense that I was given the gift of gab, as we say.
Would you consider it as a talent? Because we have a question from Joyce who is wondering, what are your talents? What do you find to have?
I think I can see the humor in a lot of things. I think I can make links between different events and try to bring them together in hopefully a humorous way. I am not a stand-up comedian, however. I tried that one time, and it's not, yes. Well, it was not very good. I've taken a course in acting, and I found out I am not an actor as well in the classical sense. The camera does not like me in the way that it likes other people, and that's fine, I accept that. But that does not mean that I don't have a certain presence or a certain ability in front of a group of people to maybe provide them with both information and entertainment at the same time.